Hello. So today I would like to talk to you about addiction. Here are a few startling statistics. About 130 people in the US alone die from fatal opioid overdose. From 1999 to 2019, nearly 500,000 Americans died due to opioid overdose. Overdose deaths involving heroin increased fivefold from 2010 to 2019. Now, I start with these not to frighten, but to demonstrate the need for educating people about this epidemic. Chances are extremely high you will encounter an addict in your lifetime. They may even be someone you love. You may even have an addict in your life at this very moment. Addicts and addiction can be difficult to deal with. In this talk, I hope to shed some light on not only the cause of addiction, but possibly an answer to the disease. So let's begin. What is addiction? Addiction is a biopsychosocial disorder characterized by compulsive engagement in rewarding stimuli despite adverse consequences. Now, that is the textbook definition of addiction. My definition, being an addict myself, is one's self-made obsession for pleasure seeking and the literal hell this desire brings to the user. There seems to be a few arguments for the cause of addiction. In one argument, the cause is blamed on the chemical hooks in the substances of choice and genetics. Another position blames environment, a person's upbringing, pointing to addiction as a learned behavior. And still another blames the moral deficiency of, of the one addicted and his lack of willpower. Now, I take personal offense to this last theory. So, how do we deal with addicts? Typically, addicts are treated badly. When faced with the consequences of their disease, they are shunned and made to feel unwelcome and unworthy. This looks a lot like trouble getting jobs or finding resources in the community. We do not let them forget. And we certainly do not make it easy for them to reconnect with society. This attitude manifests in homelessness, prison sentences, and overdose deaths. Addicts are made to feel as if they have nowhere to run to receive the help they desperately need. Would it interest you to know that we view addiction, the view we have of addiction is all wrong? Let me explain. In the past, lab rats, being a very social species, were studied in an experiment where the rats were kept in cages and given a choice of two different water sources. One of the water sources was laced with heroin, the other was plain water. The rats in these experiments, 99% of the time, chose the heroin laced water and they drank until they died. Now, in the late 1960s to the early 1970s, a psychologist named Bruce Alexander observed these experiments and realized they were flawed. So he set out to build Rat Park. In Rat Park, the rats were supplied with all the cheese they could ever eat. They were supplied with all the kinds of trinkets and rat playthings they could ever want. And probably the most important thing they were supplied was sex and rat friends. As I stated before, rats are social animals. When the rats in Rat Park were presented with this water choice, with the water choices, 90% of them chose not to take the heroin-laced water. It appears the results of the experiment point to the need for connection. Now, these results had minimal implications for human addicts. However, at the exact same time, there was a human experiment going on called the Vietnam War. During this war, soldiers deployed were stripped of any familiarity of home. They were stripped of any nurturing or human touch. Many of our troops turned to heroin to supplement this human need. Many became addicted. When the war was over, you would expect we would have a nation of junkies and drug addicts coming home to us. However, this did not happen. Once the soldiers rejoined their loved ones and their connected lives to other humans, the desire for the drug-laced water disappeared. Now, the Rat Park experiment and the simultaneous observation of the Vietnam War indicate that addiction isolates the addict, and that the cure for addiction is not to separate them from us, but to connect them into society the best we can. Because the answer to addiction, my friends, is not sobriety, but connection. Thank you.